Alright, here we are. It's the 9th. Oh, it's probably about noon now. Motor's back in the garage. Them deadbeats in Georgia ain't gonna honor their warranty. They want me to drop it off and leave it with them. And then they'll decide what they're gonna do. So parental guidance is advised on this video. I'm gonna explain to everybody in detail about this piece of shit engine. How it never ran in their yard, they never inspected it, they never test run it, and it had 300,000 miles on it probably, had been overheated, abused, beaten, and they just scammed somebody. So stay tuned. All right, the way I picked this motor up, and the way I know for a fact they did not test this motor, they did not run this motor. Does anybody know what that is? The rag lint. That is the exhaust side of the turbo, okay? It was so bad that it snapped the shaft off. That's the turbo right there. This is the exhaust side. The catalytic converter bolt's in here. This piece you see I'm pointing to right there is the wastegate. This turbine end, the exhaust side, goes in there, okay? It did not come out until after I took took this turbo off. It had a busted bolt. I went and took the end housing off, the exhaust side end housing right here. This fell out in my hand, okay? In the next clip, you're gonna see the timing gears, well actually no, I take it back. In the next clip, I'm gonna show you what it looked like after I put oil in it and started it up and ran it for about 2 minutes. Not even that, it was probably a minute. I ran it just long enough to, fill the filter the rest of the way. I pre-filled the filter as much as I could, but it goes on at an angle like this, so half of it drains out. So I ran it just long enough to get the oil pressure up. I shut it back down, pulled the dipstick out. That clip is going to be right here. This is what you're going to see. There's your drain plug. There's the oil filter. That's got a load of junk in it. So we're going to have to pull the valve cover off, and we're going to flush it out really good. So that's all we can do. Okay, you saw that oil. That oil was absolutely nasty, filled with junk. I don't know if it didn't have enough, it didn't have water in it because it wouldn't have mixed in the way it did. I mean, that milky crap is just all the junk that's inside this motor. Okay, in the next clip you're going to see here, I went ahead and went to town. I got another 5 quarts of oil, another oil filter, took the valve cover off. I'm going to have to flush the inside of this motor out. As soon as I took the valve cover off is when you're going to see the timing chain. The cams were so rusted. This motor had been sitting for, couldn't even tell you. I'm going to show you what the bottom pulley looked like. Well, actually, I'm not even going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the item number of the eBay listing up so you can see what this motor looks like and how rusty it was sitting there on that pallet. Almost turned away because of that. This thing had been sitting out in the rain, rusted everything up. Here's a good example. Okay? This is the belt tensioner that came off of it. It's junk. It's froze up. Won't turn. Okay? They're sealed bearings. How the hell hard is that to seize up? You can see the back of the flywheel. That's their flywheel. Look at the rust. I mean, the block, it's all rusty. Even under the timing cover and stuff, it's just rusty. So you're going to see the timing chain tensioners, how bad they were, and what had probably happened. This snapped off. This is just an assumption of all the years of me working on cars, big trucks. I've had 2 runaway turbos, saved both motors, by the way. Any of you truck drivers know what a runaway turbo is. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't stop it, it's $10,000 damage, guaranteed. There's not a usable part in the motor. I saved both of mine, okay? I got them shut down and stopped. When this thing breaks, all the oil pressure going in this turbo is forced into the engine. This thing will diesel and run. It'll destroy the head, it'll flatten pistons, bend rods, bust pistons, suck all the oil out of the oil pan while it's doing this and continue to run. Look at the timing chain tensioners in the video. You're going to see how they're just ground down to nothing, all melted. I went, and you know what? I had my own tensioners. I took the top camshafts out, got my chain, my new tensioner, 150 bucks, cleaned them camshafts up with some emery cloth, put everything back together. I cleaned the whole top of that motor out, flushed everything down through the oil pan, 5 more quarts of oil, and another oil filter. By this time, I'm out 250 bucks. I ain't heard this motor run 30 seconds, a minute. Had to put a timing belt and tensioner kit on this thing, and a new water pump. There's 200 bucks. So there's $450 just to make this motor start and run. Put the new oil, new filter, got it started and let it idle. Got the water up and, you know, just revved it up a little and you could hear it. And I'm thinking, crap, you know, I know what the sound is. All right, I've heard it 1,000 times. A lot of guys will take motors, have the block board, and then buy pistons. Biggest mistake you can do. You buy the pistons first. You have each cylinder board to that piston. You have that piston numbered to that cylinder, because every piston can be 1, 2, 3 thousandths bigger in diameter, smaller in diameter. So you get each one, okay, bored and honed to the cylinder. They'll put it in, they'll put 1, there's number 1, there's number 2, blah, blah, blah. You run these things hot, or I'll go back to the engine part. You bore an engine, you put pistons in it, they ended up being 7 thousandths too small, the hole is 7 thousandths too big. Now the piston is rattling around in there like a damn rattle can. This is what this is doing, okay? You're going to see in the video clip that's coming up, the piston literally rocking back and forth, okay? And it was more than one, but the one that was making the noise was the number 1 piston. And more than likely, when I took the number 1 spark plug out, absolutely covered with rust, the end of it was just covered with rust. I hunted for that spark plug in all my parts. I can't find it. I actually can't find the 4 spark plugs I took out of this motor. But that one spark plug that cylinder had moisture in it. The motor has probably been overheated more than one time. And what happens when it overheats is the piston will heat up faster than the cylinder because it's aluminum, and it just swells up inside the piston. And the terminology for it is squeezing a piston. It happens in big trucks all the time. If you look in my videos, you're going to see a blue and white Peterbilt that I totally restored. I put $20,000 into this Peterbilt. Now, I rebuilt that motor, restored that whole truck and painted it. The guy on the phone I talked to today basically called me an incompetent boob that couldn't fix this go-kart motor, okay? He's a jackass. Said he was no keyboard warrior. He's a 4-time SCAA champion. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know who I was talking to. I had him on speakerphone and had my camera running the whole time, like I always do, because it never fails. These jackasses run their mouth and hang themselves every time. I'm not going to play that video on the internet. I'm going to have a couple of good friends listen to it so that they can come on this video and say, I'm not bullshit, okay? I was totally calm with this guy. I needed this engine resolved. I have surgery in the morning. Couldn't get a hold of nobody today. I left at 6:30 this morning to drive to Georgia so that if they did come in, I could be halfway there so I could get home tonight. Okay? It's a 400-mile round trip. I still have to deal with them while I'm there. Probably going to take a couple hours. them jerking around, trying to weasel out of giving me my money back. They told my wife on the phone, Mike did, this motor has a 90-day warranty. If it breaks, it don't work, we'll give you your money back or give you another motor. Okay? Now, they're basically saying, you bring it to us, drop it off, we'll inspect it and opt to fix it, or you're fucked. And I'm like, I've got $100 in gas to go get it. I got $100 in gas to drop it off, not to mention the $450 I put in it to make it run. Then he wants to hold my motor ransom while he decides if he's going to give me my money back or fix it. I'm like, no. And then I even went so far as to say, you know what? I know what's wrong with this motor. Timing chain tensioners and new timing chains, $150. 4 pistons, bore the motor out, rod and main bearings. I told him, I says, you fix that motor and give me the documentation that that motor's fixed, I'll gladly drop that son of a bitch off, because I'll gladly pay you $500 for a rebuilt motor. And he's like, oh, well, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, well, you just said you would. But they won't give me my money back. These are what you call deadbeat internet salesmen. This is what they do. They sell you junk knowing you're not going to go through the trouble to try and get your money back, because it's such a hassle. Okay? Well, here's the problem with that. You see what that says? Filed St. Clair County Court. I filed a lawsuit against this deadbeat. Okay? I'm suing him for the motor, I'm suing him for shipping costs, and I'm suing him for the labor. And I'm suing him for the court costs. That's all I can do. Okay? There it is, buddy. That's what you got coming. There's my receipt that I turned into the court. Right there. Suing him for $1,000. $500 for the motor, $250 for shipping, and $250 to R&R the engine because it was junk. Totally fair, totally understanding. Nobody would install this motor for $250, much less pull it out again. But I'm going to be a nice guy here. Going totally against my internet persona, okay? So, watch the clips, watch the videos, you make a decision for yourself. In the videos, you're going to see the company's name, the company's number, the name of the guys that I've talked to, and the eBay listing. So you can go look at the motor and look at the way it looks sitting outside. And you're going to, that motor's been laying out in the rain. Have a nice day, everybody. All right, this is probably one of 2 motors I've ever bought that I've never heard run. And you know, this is a good reason why you try and stay away from engines that you don't hear run. You saw the turbo, okay? You can just about assume that's why the car was scrapped. The turbo was broke. That is the timing chain tensioner. That sumbitch is burnt down to nothing. That's what a good one looks like, okay? There's a chunk of it right there, and I pulled a long piece of it out and threw it on the ground. I don't know where it got off to, but it's that's got to be changed. At least the shoe has to be changed. You know, it's just one thing after another. This thing's getting on my nerves. But all you can do is just keep going. You know, you can tell it's been sitting a while. The cams are a little rusty. Those will shine back up though. Get back at it. Okay, there's the bottom tensioner. And here's the top tensioner. Literally ground down to nothing. That chain has been riding. You can see the edge of that on that tensioner. There's the other pieces I pulled out. I have another tensioner, and I have another chain and the little pucks that go on them. All right, got it all back together. Well, most of the ways. I still got to put the timing belt on it. You see the valve train's a lot cleaner. The key is from each mark, you should only have 16 rollers. So from this one you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay? That puts them 2 cams in time. You can see my little homemade tensioner here. You got to loosen the bottom screw up. Yeah, go ahead and fall on the ground. I don't care. Oops, should aim the camera while I'm working. Okay. Okay. Now, when it pumps up with oil, the minute it pumps oil pressure, that thing will get rock hard. I just got to go around and torque all these bolts, and being that you're going to start the motor right away, regular old engine oil is fine for an assembly lube. Make sure you get the chain, you get the bottom tensioner really good, and then I just got to make sure I put that bolt in tomorrow. And then I'll torque everything down in the morning, get valve cover on it. Oh, see if she starts again. I'm done for the night. Alright, the knock this thing has, I'm going to unplug the spark plugs one at a time. She's going to hold it, the RPM's up to about 1800 is where it'll start really knocking loud. And I'll unplug these coil packs one at a time. And when I unplug the one and the noise goes away, it's either got a busted piston or a bad wrist pin. Let me pour some more water in it, make sure it's got water and stuff in it. Yeah, it's full of water. It's over full. Alright, start it back up. You can hear it knocking now. Alright? Hear it knocking? Rev it up. Still knocking. Okay. The knock goes away. The number 1 cylinder has a busted piston. Watch. Listen. Alright. Leave it there. Hold it. Here. Alright. Shut it down. Okay, bring it down here so you can see that gap I'm showing you. Alright, here's our piston knock if you listen carefully. What that is that's a standard piston in a 10,000ths over hole. This thing has been so hot that the cylinder is what's called been squeezed. This one does it too. It's not as bad. Okay? That one's not near as bad, but this one, that's a plastic handle. You're not hearing the handle. Can you shine the camera straight down in the hole? There you go. Now if you see the gap is closed on this end up front, well, bring it closer, straight up. There you go. If you see the gap is closed up here up front and it's real wide back here, watch the front now. Watch the front. Nope. There you go. See the big gap? That's the piston knock. There you go.